And we're back shooting EWB Everywhere We Belong, podcast by Belong, fintech company based out of Bangalore. My name is Micah, and today we have Parmita Chakrabarti on for episode 8. So that's exciting. Parmita was born in Abu Dhabi in 1993 and studied within the CBSE Indian syllabus there till grade 7. After which she came to India for the first time, spending 2 years in Panchgani, Maharashtra. She then went to the UAE for grades 9 to 12, having realized she wanted to travel west for further studies after that. She then went to Canada in 2011 and did her bachelor's in electrical engineering. After that, she worked at Schneider Electric for 6 years in power systems. She then shifted out of corporate to pursue creative expression for the heart and not the ego, as she's told me. She only spent 3 more months in Canada before coming back to India to experience the subcontinent's energy and explore a deeper sense of purpose. She's currently in Dharamshala, but will be going to Delhi soon, which is where she's currently based. Hi, Parmita.
Hi, Micah. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to finally have you on here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that Ishan introduced us. I remember on the intro calls, you were telling me that you were going to go up to Dharamshala and that you'd be busy.
Yes, I remember we were chatting in a cafe asking for chili sauce.
Do you feel like the spice level up there isn't particularly high? This is just a random question for myself because I love spice.
No, because it's a little bit Tibetan influence, and so far I haven't found it as spicy as I would expect.
I just am a masochist when it comes to spice. There's a specific type of Indian where it's like I want to feel pain when I'm eating spicy food.
Oh, so you'd like the Hyderabadi biryani. I heard it's super spicy and it can really test your spice levels.
Yeah. They have a curry over there that's just chilies, which is crazy.
Wow. Okay.
That one hurts. But anyway, I think I will move on to the first question before we go on some chili tangent. Regarding your childhood and early life, what do you remember Abu Dhabi being like when you were there up until middle school?
I actually enjoyed Abu Dhabi quite a bit as a child before I hit the teenage years. Definitely the culture is very different and it's a Muslim country and there are a lot of these rules that are in place, but it's quite liberating to live in Abu Dhabi. It's not as intense as Saudi Arabia. So there was a good amount of freedom that we got, and I love Abu Dhabi as a city. Even in school, I think it was amazing because I actually did CBSE board and it was fully disciplined, very strict in so many ways. I had a good base in terms of my early education. And I'm just grateful to have been born in Abu Dhabi and spend my time because it was like a whole other world. Yet it didn't feel like I was in a whole other world until I grew older. I was like, whoa, everything really does feel very fabricated because ultimately it is a desert, right? That they build cities on. So there is some essence of it that feels very fake. But that I only realized much later. But as a child, I loved it. I loved Abu Dhabi in so many ways. It's at the sea right there, and it was a blast.
That sounds amazing. The previous guest we had on said that Abu Dhabi is like the cultural center of the UAE, whereas Dubai is much more the tourist spot, which was interesting to hear.
Actually, Abu Dhabi is the capital of UAE. A lot of people think that Dubai is the capital because it's so well known as a business place and every movie has Dubai in it. That's true. Abu Dhabi has Heritage Village and it also has a lot of families, a lot of local families that live there. So the feel is very much like home compared to Dubai. Dubai just feels like, yeah, you're in a portal of materialistic world. That's what it feels like. And then you come to Abu Dhabi, it's like a beautiful transition into families, kids running around playing, less of the superficial aspect of it. And I think that's why I'm grateful that I got the chance to grow up in Abu Dhabi and not Dubai. Because if I were to grow up in Dubai, it would have been a completely different universe.
Oh, I'm sure.
We're tourists, and it's just, I think people just function a bit differently there, and the purpose that they're there for is a lot different.
I see what you mean. Also, the statement that it seems fake is something that I've thought about a lot because it's something that I heard from people that have gone there. Even my dad, when he came back from Dubai, he said that you can tell that it's a young city, built with so much money, basically an unlimited budget, and has sprung up fairly recently. So the idea of it being fake is just something that intrigues me. Like, what constitutes a real place? Is it the history? Is it the amount of time it's had to find itself? I wonder.
Yeah, I think in this context, fakeness would really mean in terms of how seasoned, you're right, the age of the city and how seasoned people are. Because in a way, it's so hot as a place. You just bounce around from one air-conditioned room, go out for a bit to another air conditioned room and then to a mall. So in terms of things that you can do, things you can experience is very limited. So it just feels like you are in this portal of AC bouncing around trying to find a way where you can cool off the fastest. It just feels like you're in this simulation of some sort. And yeah, I mean, culturally, I think Sheikh Zayed, he was the one who built all these emirates and he made it what it is that we see today. And yeah, everything has been brought up from desert, from nothing to the cities that we see today. So in terms of age as well, you can feel they've all been crafted in a way to withstand such hot temperatures. So, but then they have to go way beyond the capacity for it to be something that's natural or native to the land. So
Mm,
automatically you feel like, yeah, it's all man-made, which is true, it is. So it adds up the layer to the fakeness, feeling like it's all fabricated.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I suppose when it's that insulated, that's how it's going to feel, right? By nature.
Totally.
So, culturally, what was it like visiting India intermittently until you properly moved for middle school?
So I'm used to going there every summer vacation for a month or two, and my routine was always like we would go to an empty house, open it up, clean it, stay there, close the house, come back to Abu Dhabi. Because my dad had invested in places, in property, so that's how the routine was until the decision was made to go to a boarding school. And it wasn't because I was a bad kid or anything like that, but I think sometimes the environment that you're in, Abu Dhabi, it can make you be a little not as street smart. And I think my sister, she suggested that, yeah, I think you might need to go to boarding school just for some form of independence. I landed up going there and it was completely different because I was in a hill station. It would rain a lot. It had those transitions from rainy season to cold to summer. Culturally, it was amazing because I got exposure to a whole other religion, Baha'u'llah. So I don't know if you know of it, but Nowruz, they would celebrate all of that. So they
Mm,
would worship Prophet Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha'u'llah. And I got a good chance to really soak in that religion and understand what their philosophy was and their celebrations. It was honestly beautiful. There were two best years of my school life
mm,
because it really taught me a whole other level of being very grateful for whatever it is that I had, because whatever we had was like, oh my God, chocolate cake, something that we wouldn't get that often. We
uh-huh.
typically take that for granted, and I would get that. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So there was this level of gratitude that added on to it, and then being in India with everybody there was absolutely beautiful.
Mm,
Culturally, I'm grateful that I got the chance to be in India during that period of time, grade 7 and 8, because it got me rooted to India in ways that I wouldn't have otherwise in just
right.
visiting throughout the previous years.
Makes sense. I feel like that's such a healthy way of looking at it because instead of being like, we don't get certain things often, you were grateful for the perspective that that gave you.
Totally.
Gratitude. That's a very enlightened way of looking at it.
I was always self-aware, so it was and I got bullied a lot too, so a lot of personality development happened there, to be honest, and I'm grateful for all of that.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Again, that's just a really healthy perspective, especially to have as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
What were the key differences between your school experience in the UAE and India?
A huge difference. From grade 1 to 6, the school that I was in was super key on discipline and the way everything was structured. And I was in an Indian board, so there wasn't a huge shocker for me when I
Mm,
went to India. And when I went into boarding school, everyone was way more lenient. I wasn't used to seeing people cheat and things like that in exams. So for me, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here?
Yeah.
So I did find myself fall a little backwards in discipline and in terms of how studious I used to be from grade 1 to 6. So
Mm.
definitely I felt that transition going in from Abu Dhabi. It probably was a school to a boarding school because, it's just you live there, you stay there, and it's somehow it tends to be very lenient yet strict.
Mm.
I don't know how to describe it because the teachers don't have so much attention to make sure and look at every single person. So there's a lot of
Mm.
room for people to improvise and do things that's out of the rule book. So for me that was an adjustment, and I did feel myself go a little bit backwards in terms of how much I would actually truly study. But in
Mm.
terms of the curriculum, CBSE board, just continuation, there wasn't anything that felt like I had to jump up or had to catch up to something. There was Marathi that I got the privilege of skipping because I was an NRI. I'm like,
Nice.
I'm NRI. They didn't know I knew how to read and write in Hindi because it's very similar Marathi and
Yeah.
Hindi. And I was like,
That's a good place to use it to get out of an extra language.
100%. And my teacher knew. She knew I could speak in Hindi and write in Hindi. She knew it, and she's like, I can tell you're running away from this by using it. But I'm like, hey, not my fault. I spoke to the principal. I can get away with it. So I am.
Yeah. Fair enough. You superseded her authority, so it's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Did you enjoy your time doing your undergraduate degree in Canada after you finished school? And how did the University of Toronto treat you as an NRI?
Yeah, I did. I loved it. Canada was one of the places because it's so multicultural. I
Mm-hmm.
really felt like I built my base. And through university is where I found all my closest friends, and it was a different form of family that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, I feel, if I wasn't in that kind of an environment. Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed. It was gruesome because the amount of times we would spend in labs and in school was quite intense, but that's what I think made our connection with our classmates a lot more intense and pure. Like we went through the tough times together. As an NRI specifically, I don't see an advantage or disadvantage because it's so multicultural. Most of the Indians that are at UFT are most probably NRIs
Mm.
because of the fees or the structure of it. Most of them are NRIs, and a lot of them were from the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
They studied there, they grew up there. And in terms of specifically NRI, I didn't really feel that big of a difference. Yeah, because it's just so multicultural.
I feel like when you get that far from home, it's like everyone is an NRI.
It totally 100%.
I,
And it was nice because then you could bond over where they were from, and a lot of them were from Bahrain, Qatar, a lot of these places, and it was very comforting
mm,
in some form,
yeah.
being a Middle Eastern kid.
Like the bond is forged more quickly because you're meeting them outside of like the home context. Yeah.
Yes. And also because we share so many classes together and we really go through projects and labs together that it just creates a different kind of bond. It,
Mm.
it it then becomes more than where you're from, more than your Middle Eastern kid or not. It just becomes more around the gruesome all-nighters that you pulled together and how you made it through your midterms and finals with just 1 hour of sleep. It just I think it's the nature of the degree that I did that forged people that way. It kind of became beyond where you're from.
That is nice. What did these like lab sessions consist of?
It would depend on what courses. It was programming labs. If you did analog, we literally had to work with circuits. And in my case, there was also a lot of circuits because I did electrical. And majority of the all-nighters were software labs. So where we had to code and program. And every week we had something to submit. And sometimes it was group projects, sometimes it was individual. I know the software, because first 2 years you do have the same courses as software and electrical. So we had a lot of programming. And from third year onwards, I could see a shift in only my software friends stuck in labs, while all of us, the electricals, not so much. So it was like a good balance
Nice.
between it. But yeah, the first 2 years was a lot.
That sounds cozy. I mean, at a university like that, they probably really put you guys through it. Makes sense.
Yes, they really do. I think their whole intention is they wean off people. Because first year, second year, third year, they kind of design it in such a way that the people who are not able to pass are kind of weeded off. It's interesting because there's like a whole system and whole bell curve that they follow, and the whole intention of it is so that they can make the class smaller. It's kind of strategically put in that way.
I wonder if they have it down to a percentage.
I'm sure.
What was your first experience like in Schneider? Once you got in, did it feel like you had made it?
Yeah, it was actually good joining Schneider because it's such a well-known company and it was completely aligned with power systems, the area I specialized in. So
Uh,
it perfectly worked out. And I joined through a commercial leadership program, which was like a rotational program between marketing,
mm,
sales, and a little bit of quotation. So it was perfect
okay.
for me to get into that because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to focus on, but I knew I didn't want to go super technical. And this was
Right.
just the perfect way for me to just jump around and explore all the different realms in the commercial world. Did I feel like I made it? No, not at all. Not at all. Because I think what you study in university is so different from applied in the real world. I
Mm,
think in university, a big chunk of our time, we're just learning our soft skills. We're understanding the concepts, but they're concepts that's taken out of the real world and looked at in a small box rather
yeah.
than the bigger
Yeah.
picture. So when I got to work, I realized, oh wow, I really know nothing.
Mm,
Other than learning how to read single line diagrams, it's like I don't know nothing. So
wow.
it was definitely it's always a curve, right? Learning curve for you to get into it, understand how they work and using what you've learned and sort of applying it there. So
Mm,
I always felt like a student, but a student that's been carried out over, from university to the real life.
yeah.
And no, I didn't quite feel like I made it. It felt like I just started. I just started getting a vibe of what it is out there,
Mm,
like out there in the real world, to be actually working on real projects,
right.
that actually has an impact.
Yeah, were there implications?
You can get away with it. You can change a few parameters, no harm done. But
Yeah.
in the real world, it makes a big difference. So yeah,
That's
it was waking up to that and learning to navigate around that.
truly, I've felt often at even this job, getting into it, right? Understanding brand and writing for an
Mhm.
actual company. It's so different from studying it because theoretically I would always do well. But I've realized that maybe the most key learning going into the actual job was that the diligence matters so much because even the tiniest details, if they're not attended to, they can like have
Mhm.
serious ramifications down the line, which is not the case when you're in school. So that was definitely an interesting learning curve.
100%.
Do you feel like they understood that the learning curve would be steep and that it would take time at that company? Or do you think you're expected to kind of just hit the ground running?
It both yes and no.
Mm.
It really depends on the kind of role that you step into. So because the nature of my role was expected where fresh graduates come in and they do the whole rotational program, the expectation was that we will mold them. So there was a lot more lenience in how they navigated around learning and growing and teaching you through it. And it depends from person to person as well on how fast you grasp. So because of the nature of the role that I had, they were a lot more lenient, way more. But I think once you get higher up and you officially switch into something that is more of a managerial position, or you are looking after a series of products,
Mm.
people forget you're new. Like 1 month in, they expect you to know every single detail. I
Yeah,
think the I am new pass only works for 2 weeks
that's
because
great.
there'll be a lot more people coming in and they'll have no idea that you're new, but you don't want to give off that vibe that you're
Yeah.
new as well. If they're clients or if they're people from higher up, so it's almost like you're expected to know. And yeah, so it really depends on the kind of role that you're in and what you're doing that
Mm.
determines the expectations that people have from you.
Right.
And for me, I could feel a big difference when I moved out of the rotational program to having a role where I was managing products. Yeah, people expected you to know every single detail. So it was
Mm.
even few months down the line, you still felt like you were learning because these were like in-depth technical knowledge about the product as well. Um, that they expected, and we actually never got training so depth into each product. Yeah, it really depends on the manager, it depends on the position, it depends on what role you have, that
Mm.
really determines
Right.
the expectation of people.
Yeah. The level of immersion required to be like to know everything offhand.
Yeah,
You're asked is it's wild.
did you feel that with your role as well when you joined, because you mentioned?
Yeah, I feel like I had a month, and then it's like you need to preempt things. You should,
Right,
because there's actual ramifications, and we're getting closer to launch. So
right, makes
once that
sense.
happens, there's going to be actual customers, clients. So everything has to be shipshape
Yeah.
completely and factually vetted and correct. So
Yeah, I feel you.
when I see a name like Schneider, you just imagine that it'll be uniform and that it'll be some big company where people can kind of chill. But
Yeah.
it seems like that wasn't the case.
No, it's not. I think with the program that I was in, it is uniform because there's like a whole HR assigned to it, and they want to make sure that you have the tools that you need because
Uh-huh.
they're really molding future leaders in
Yeah.
so many ways. But with normal roles, no, it's a lot of it is you get training, you get handoff from whoever was the previous person in the role, you get hand off, and it really depends on how they're handing it off to you. So it depends on the responsibility of the person prior to you. That completely determines your trajectory. I think you really have to be in the mindset of learning everything on your own, and be curious and explore things on your own. Otherwise, yeah, it's not a world where you will be spoon fed.
Yeah, not at all. I see. After you started earning there, what did your monthly budgeting look like?
Ooh, when I first started, no budget, no budget. Because it felt great after graduating. I'm like, oh, I'm getting money every month, paycheck. It was amazing. I felt like a kid with adult money. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I didn't budget, and then it caught up on me to realize that okay, I'm not saving a lot. So after a few months of having fun with the money that I had,
Uh-huh.
I realized I needed to really adult up and start saving.
Mm.
And what I did, I would just transfer, I would allocate a certain budget, let's say maybe 500, depending on how much I would get, and how much are my needs and how much are my wants and how much is the excess. Um, I would budget, and I would transfer automatically in my savings account as soon as I get the money, like maybe $500, put it in my savings account. So I know that I haven't used up all of the money that I got.
Nice.
So so not really living paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, I had to learn. I had to learn to budget. It didn't come naturally for sure.
Fair, fair. That makes sense. There were a few months of fun, and then you were like, I need to get serious.
Yeah, I was like, I also need to save up to travel, to do things, like I need to do that. So yeah, I started
Yes.
doing that.
And
And then it
eventually,
became a habit.
uh-huh. That's great. Okay, so what putting that money away every month became habitual. Like it felt weird to not do that later
Yes.
on.
Yeah. Because as soon as I would see the money land, I would just put it. And some months, if I had some bigger expenditure could be, I don't know, a laptop or whatever, I would be lenient and not do that.
Mm.
But most of the time, yeah, I would make sure I would put in an amount.
That sounds so good in theory. That's
Right?
fantastic in theory.
Some days you just need more, right? It doesn't work putting it into the savings account.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, I think you eventually realize that no matter how much you're making, it's like you could make that disappear if you wanted. There's ways.
totally.
There's ways in this world. There's ways to spend it. No amount will be like, it's in my account and it will stay there and accumulate on its own.
Oh, yeah. That I think that's where the discipline comes in, right? You have to be strict and understanding. But that's where age comes at an advantage, where you mature and you understand as you grow older that, yeah, all this stuff that I'm buying, I don't really need it.
Yeah.
I don't need any of this, but the way you just, in the moment, you feel like you need it and you buy it, and ultimately you just land up sticking around in a corner. Yeah, you learn that, need to be wiser with where the money goes.
Smart. So you realized that in your mid 20s?
Yeah, I would say mid. Yeah.
Solid.
And I think it's because I've seen my dad save a lot. My
Mm.
dad was very good. He's magical with money. I need to sit down and understand better, but he never tells me what
Not
he exactly does. It's
wow.
interesting. He's like, it just happens." I'm like, okay. But he, some magic hat. I grew up also seeing him save a lot and be mindful with things that he would spend on. I know he would always make sure if I would indulge or want to buy something that clearly I wouldn't use, yeah, he would give me that reality check in
Mm.
so many ways. So I think I sort of learned how to save, or the mindset of making sure that there's some amount saving by just observing my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic having that role model and an example.
Totally.
Was your mom a good saver as well, or do you feel like that influence came solely from your dad?
Yeah, no, my mom too. She wouldn't spend so much on her. She would be more likely to spend on us. So what I saw from her perspective, she wouldn't buy for herself, but she would come back buy things for us. She would see
That's nice.
things, and sometimes it was a lot of stuff that we didn't quite need. But she would just I saw her wanting to buy things for us and less for her. So naturally, me and my sister, what we'd end up doing is, and this I learned from watching my sister. I have a sister, she's 5 years older than me, that
Mm.
every time she would get any earning or income, she would always make sure she would buy big things for the family, like electronics or things that they wouldn't usually buy. So I learned that watching my sister, and
Mm.
that's how my mom would get things. Like we would buy things for her that she wouldn't buy otherwise. So it balances out, I think. Everyone had their own ways of dealing with money, and
Mm.
I pick and chose what I wanted to take from each of them and made a unique view in a way.
A unique combination. That's very sweet.
Yeah,
I suppose everyone could get those things on their own, but it's more meaningful when it's like the result of thoughtfulness from a family member.
100%.
That is very special.
And we also learned so much by observing, right? So when I grew up, just observing and being a sponge and seeing how they function, you subconsciously inherit those traits
Mm.
until you realize you're the one doing it too. So
Yeah,
yeah, it kind of comes with the territory.
absolutely. They determine what's normal, right?
But
Family, you see them the most. I feel like I saw my mom save and think about finance consciously the most. My dad's a musician, mom's a teacher. That
hmm
tells everyone everything they need to know. But it's nice. It's nice to have the balance, and it's nice to learn generosity from a parent as well. Like my dad would definitely buy us things that he would never get himself. So that is definitely
Ah, interesting.
yeah,
So you say your dad's a musician? My
yeah.
mom's a musician and my dad's the engineer. So then my
Wow,
mom's the one who's who buys things for other people. That's very interesting. I just made the connection there. Ah, maybe it's a artist thing.
maybe artists don't feel the need to have material things as much as everyone else knows.
Maybe it's the music in them that makes them want to be more generous.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's just happy as long as he has his instruments with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's nice. What does she play? I'm just curious. Or does she sing?
She's a classical singer. She also played the piano as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, Hindustani classically trained, and that's why she would be a school teacher, music teacher for a big chunk of her life. And that's how me and my sister also learned classical music through her. I'm grateful for that. Staying in Abu Dhabi still, like we had the luxury, though I didn't use full advantage of it, because as a kid you take things for granted, and I wouldn't want to sit in for her. It's only now I realize that, oh, actually, that would have been beneficial. But yeah, it feels nice to grow up in a musician's household.
Very true.
Yeah.
I don't think kids have the attention span for scales, though.
Yeah, that's true. It's only when you grow older, you're like, oh, damn it, I should have focused more in that language class or in that singing class or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I feel about Western classical, like piano classes. I would zone
Yeah.
out every time. And my teacher eventually would just be like, I'm going to give you 2 songs. We're going to learn those 2 songs, and that's your weekly task. And
Yeah.
move on, streamline it so that I could like,
How would that help you? Is that something that worked for you or
yeah, it did. Like theoretically, it set up a good base for me musically. You know,
right?
Because now I also grew up in a musical household with my dad playing in the attic with his band all the time. My mom would play bass. She would sing. Everyone played something. So the intuition was there, but the theory, my teacher helped me set up when I was like in the fourth grade during those piano classes. Just to touch upon finance a little bit further, did you open an NRE or NRO account while in Canada? If so, was the process easy or difficult?
No, I had a separate set of accounts altogether. It's like GIC, tax-free savings account, things like that. That's more connected to the bank and typically the investment options that we have in Canada. So the tax-free savings is like tax-free. You can put as much as you want. Every year you get a certain allocation depending on how much taxes you file, and every year it gets added on. You just don't get taxed on the interest that you get from there. And then there's also GIC that you can lock in for a whole year, depending on the certain rates, and you can invest in different mutual funds, bonds, whatever. You can choose however aggressive you want to go. I've always chose the least aggressive, to be honest, very safe that way. I think I learned that from that. But yeah, so these are the only two things that I would honestly invest in. I still have it now, mostly because I don't know the trajectory of how long I'll be in India, what I'll do next, and things like that. So I always like that the ability that it's not going to be less than the principal,
Mm.
so it because of the fluctuation and I don't have anything long term. So that's why I always go for these things that's locked in for a year and
Makes
gives me
sense.
the flexibility to take it out just because of the nature of where I'm at, what I'm doing, and the uncertainty of everything.
I see. Well, that makes sense. So that's India based, those accounts, right?
No, no, it's all Canadian. I have no India-based stuff.
Okay.
All Canadian accounts, I still have it there. Everything is Canadian. Even the tax-free savings is all Canadian. Because even with taxes, I file it there, even though
Mhm.
I'm in India. But because of the agreement that India and Canada has, I don't have to do it separately. I mean, if I'm earning money in India, then yes, I would have to. Either I can choose to declare it into my Canadian taxes if it's going in my Canadian bank or here. But no, they're all Canadian. I have
I see.
not stepped into the Indian market at
Wow.
all. It's all the GICs and TFSAs, none of the NRE accounts, any of that. That's in India.
Wow. Okay. Possibly a wise move to make.
I don't know, because I really feel like I'm in the middle of both worlds. I'm in India, but then I have everything functioning in Canada. I really feel like I need to do something about that, be wise about it. Because when I'll officially start earning in India, I know it's going to be a pain.
Yeah. Once that starts
Yeah.
happening, the government is going to insist that you file here.
100%. Thank
Paperwork.
you.
On to the next question. Did you purchase the property in Canada yourself, the one that you mentioned to me? And if so, did you invest your savings anywhere else there?
Yes. So the property, yes, I did get it there. I still have the mortgage running.
Okay.
So typically they give a mortgage for 25 years, depending on whatever rate that you want to settle on. But yeah, it was with the savings and down payment. And then after that, just month to month, they just take money automatically from my account. So as long as there's money in my account, I'm good. But yeah, I think it was a good decision because when I bought it was the amount was a lot less
Mm,
than how much I bought it for. And as the years went on, the value got a lot higher in the place I was, things like that. So I think it was the good move to make in so many ways.
I see. And do you rent it out?
Yeah, now it's rented out.
That's actually great. I guess it's like if you predict that the value of the property will go up, you can use the rent to cover the mortgage and then some over time, right?
Yeah, totally. And I can see that adding on now. But it depends on the rates as well, because now the mortgage rates are quite higher, a lot higher than what I had 5 years ago. So it'll change. I think I have to be mindful of the rate and how much. If it, sometimes you might not even be getting anything purely because the mortgage rates are so high and everything is just paying the interest and very little bit towards the mortgage. Even if you're getting rent from people, chances are a lot of it is going for maintenance, especially if it's a condo. So there are a lot of different pieces that you have to really watch out for and be mindful
Okay.
of, especially when you're renting it out. Yeah,
Snap.
it's because costs and things like that add up. They really do.
Absolutely. Well, it's a tough game to play.
Yeah, I mean, if you have one property, it's not that hard because it is one you have to take care of. But I think it's just being smart about how you want to, what you want to do, what you want to do next, and making sure that, yeah, you're putting the money in the right way.
What drove you to leave the corporate life behind at the end of your time at Schneider and a stable job? What thoughts echoed in your mind during those 3 months in Canada before you left?
Ooh, this was cooking for quite some time, to be honest. I remember the moment very clearly that it was few months before I gave in my resignation. I gave my resignation 3 months before the actual date. That's how sure I was.
Mm-hmm.
So a few months they had actually assigned a mentor for me so that I would be able to rise up higher in the company. They actually invested money in having a mentor for this.
Okay.
But through conversations with the mentor, I realized that I didn't want to do this anymore. It made
Mm.
it even more concrete.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was insane how that unfolded because I remember having the conversation. I was like, okay, I'll explore sustainability, I'll explore this and that role. And even 2 minutes into the conversation with the VP, I was like, why am I even in this call? I really don't care because
Wow.
it's gonna go back to feeling the same way. It's gonna be a new role, but same feeling eventually. And being in the path where even few years prior to that, I had been fully diving in deep into creativity, drawing, and putting things out there, putting my art pieces out there, and also diving in deeper into spirituality. It naturally came a point where I was like, yeah, I don't fit in this space anymore. I don't see how I can contribute in a way that feels more meaningful to my purpose. And it felt like the right call. And I didn't have any backup plan. I just followed, I just knew how to do it. And I think one of the safe things was that knowing that my parents were in India, so there was one level of comfort that I had that, okay, there's something, my parents are here and it'll be a beautiful way to also spend some time with them. Yeah, I was like, I need to go all in what I'm imagining and feeling and what I want to create. So it felt like a no-brainer. 3 months before my resignation, everyone was like, it's an early retirement. Up until the very last day, I remember my manager was like, are you sure you want to make this call? Because you do know artists don't get paid a lot. I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, none of that's gonna change. He asked me until the very last week, are you sure you want to quit? You still have time. I'm like, no, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm doing this. And 3 months in, I could feel a lot of withdrawal. Withdrawal in the sense it felt like a different world altogether. Because being in a 9 to 5, you are molded in a certain way, the way you view productivity, the way you view money, the way you view your worth in ways that gives you money, it really changes. And I realized if I had to really be who I want to be now, I needed to really get my shit together in terms of my discipline and rechange my narration of how I view money, my worth tied with productivity, that the 9 to 5 really molds.
Mm.
So yes, it started happening in those 3 months, and it was bittersweet too because I also had to pack up things and shift and make the transition of giving my place out for rent. That was very bittersweet because it was my baby. My home was my baby. It had my things and everything was like perfectly. They all had an intention, you know. There was like an energy built into the home, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now strangers are gonna live in here.
Um,
It was a lot of bittersweetness, saying goodbye to my friends who were like family to me, and
yes.
it really felt like 10 plus years of life that I had built, you know, the building that I had built with a strong base. I broke it all down. It felt like that. So it was a lot of coming to terms with that and trusting
Mm.
whatever is to come next. I still have ties with Canada, of course. I can always go back, but yeah, at this moment,
Fair. Those 3 months must have been the hardest.
well, I don't know about that, but they were hard in terms of getting rid of the old.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Then
In
there are
ret
many phases that comes after that, but to
uh,
get to say goodbye to the old, yes, it was
nice. In retrospect, do you feel like it was worth letting go of the comfort?
Yeah, totally. I was
Yeah.
ready for it. I was ready for it. I had made peace with it. Um, I mean, at some point we do have to walk forward, right? We can't stay in the comfortable cocoon if you want to create something, if you want to build something that has no blueprint. So
Mm,
it yeah, I had trust in myself up until that point to make make that decision and walk forward. Yeah, I was very excited actually.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Takes a lot of bravery, I'd imagine. And in terms of artistry, what is it that you want to make now? Is it visual or is it audio based?
So I'm a digital artist. I create a lot of my art pieces inspired from people, emotions, from experiences, and I love encapsulating emotions visually. I
Mm,
love giving an experience through an art piece for people, for a gateway for people to reflect and connect deeper to their soul. Because yeah, it's just a glimpse of how I see, and it's mostly digital art. And I also do a lot of animations as well. Moving forward, I do want to create a lot of physical products that bring an experience in receiving things on how I want to create it. So I'm just following that, and
awesome.
yeah, ultimately, I just want people to experience and have it as a mirror for people to truly understand that there's magic everywhere around us. So all
Beautiful.
my art pieces are really reflective of that.
So, what did the process of finding what you truly want to do involve? And has that process been seamless or was there resistance to learning yourself?
Boy, yes and no. In terms of seamless, no, it hasn't. I think as you grow and as you evolve, you start piecing things together.
Hmm.
And when I came to India, everything changed. I think me as a person had to shed a lot of the old self, old beliefs, and old ways of just experiencing life. A lot of it naturally happened. So as I shed, things started feeling a lot more clearer. I know all of last year I spent thinking I'll execute, and I also put out an art print series and all of that. While it's so important to put things out while you're in the transitional period because it helps you understand how this certain project makes you feel, gives you more clues as to if you're in the right direction or not. I think it started getting clear as I grew and as I evolved as a person, as I'm gaining more experience, and it's constantly changing. As I create one thing, something else pops up, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. So yeah, it's just evolving constantly.
That's a good attitude to have because, like, as it changes, you know that it's going to. It just happens naturally. And there's not just one, what's the word for it? There's not like a stencil cut out for like a successful life or a beautiful life. It's just, it changes in aspects and you just enjoy that happening. I only learned that very recently. That's why it sprung to
Yeah.
mind. Yeah. I think when I was a kid, I was like, after 25, everything's going to be set financially, car,
Mhm.
everything. But you realize that's just not life. And it would be boring if that's what it was. You told me that you learned how to live in India after you came back. Can you tell me more
Mm.
about that?
Biggest thing would be people. So for me, I understand it's very crowded and the horns and everything, but I kind of have adapted myself to look beyond people. What I mean by that is I get overwhelmed with crowds, so I've learned to have one focus and I focus on that. So for me, the crowd wasn't a big thing, but the people were. What
Mm-hmm.
I mean by that is in Canada, everyone's so nice. Or sometimes it's too nice. You don't know if they're being fake or real. I was a person who apologized to a pole if I bumped into it. So yeah, I had major issues in being extra nice.
Yeah.
So when I came to India, it was like, oh, I love this rawness so much. Unfiltered. People say things they feel in their heart. I'm like, yes, like this is what I'm here for. As much as I loved observing, I wasn't that. So I had to change myself a little bit to adapt to how the people are here to
Mm.
get things done. I couldn't be super nice and because everyone's like, Is she okay? What's wrong with her?" So I had to, even with people my age as well, they're just so blunt. They say things as it is, and it's like, don't be so nice. I'm like, but why not? But there comes toxic niceness. I don't know if that's a word, but we'll go with it.
Yeah.
But that's also a thing, where you're beyond what is normal. So I have to adapt, and I know I'm moving in the right direction because I bumped into a pole and I didn't apologize. I was mad at the pole. I was like, why is
Nice.
it here? It's like, great.
That's
India,
progress.
yeah, totally. I've leveled up. That's how
Nice.
you know I don't have that niceness that I had from Canada. But yeah, that would be the biggest adjustment that I had.
Yeah, true. I feel like I understand that you're that kind of a
Mhm.
person because I have been very similar for a very long time. I've had to be told by colleagues not to be this nice. I've had to be told by my sound
Right.
engineer when I was doing music. Only very recently did I learn, and I mean like a year ago, I had to look at the actual hard facts and realize that I can be firm and polite on my own. I can have
Mhm.
terms, I can have my line in the sand, and then if people don't want to honor that, it's still politeness, it's still kindness, but there's no need to work together, you know? Whereas when I was younger, I was like, that's mean if I do that, you know, if I
Mhm.
have my boundaries. I only realized recently that you can be firm and polite at the same time, which is interesting. It's
Yeah, I
helpful.
think that's a good point you touch upon. I think boundaries is, or even understanding the discernment, right? When you're when someone else is stepping all over you and you're not taking the right actions to voice it, or even think that you're being mean yourself by just saying that. I
Yeah.
think it's so important to have that, especially in India, because
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
filter here.
It can be cutthroat at moments.
Mm.
But the liberating thing for me, and I hope this is of some assistance, is that you can do that and be defensive of your position and protect what's important priorities wise and be a good person. My metric for how I react to any situation, this is turning into a ramble. I'm going to keep this brief. My metric for how I react to any situation is like, will I be able to sleep at night guilt free when I reflect
Mm.
on this? That's the only metric. If I can, then it's cool. I've stuck to my values. But if not, then I know I would stepped out of line or overreacted or overdid something in some respect.
That's a good metric to have, or like a good gauge, right? If you're able to sleep without any guilt or regrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good advice. Thanks. I'm
No, of
gonna
course.
use that if I
Also,
feel anytime my boundaries are being crossed or I didn't voice when I needed to voice something.
from one very overly nice person to another.
Oh, really nice. Sometimes it gets too toxic, the niceness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been told recently you need to curb on your niceness. There's like a certain shadow that comes out through it. I'm like, great, amazing. I don't even know how that comes out, but okay, sure. I'll be mindful
Wow.
next time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems counterintuitive, but
totally. It really is. It really is.
yeah. But if you're being too nice, then the only you might be hurting someone. It'll be yourself.
That's
Nobody
true.
else. That's the only
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, you said that you felt a deeper sense of purpose here in India than in the seasons that preceded this. What specifically does that mean?
I think in the land, it vibrates a whole other level. Being an Indian, I never really got the chance to spend a lot of time in India other than the boarding school, the 2 years that I had. So coming here, automatically my soul resonated differently. The land vibrates in a different energetic frequency altogether. I mean, we have such ancient wisdom being born out of this land. You can't help not be sucked into it. So I felt a huge transition from Canada to India in terms of the energy. There's no preconceived notion. Even if it is, it doesn't matter because I'm literally rewriting them as I'm experiencing India for what
Right.
it is as an adult. So yeah, it just vibrates at a whole other level. So automatically my growth has been at that same level, very accelerated.
I see.
Yeah.
I feel like the change definitely does that. The change in environment always helps. And also the fact that you have a clean slate probably helps you see it differently than any of us.
Yeah, totally.
That being said, how do you feel Indian culture has been treated in the West, especially in the last decade as India has gained more of the spotlight on the world stage?
I'll be honest, we don't have the best rep everywhere. We really don't. In Abu Dhabi, I've noticed not the best rep. Even in Canada, not the best rep. And there are people, they're open, they're welcoming to our culture. There are spaces they hold to do dandiya, Diwali, all of that. They allow that to happen. But I think it's the people who abuse that. They forget that they are in another land and things that works in India won't necessarily work in Canada or UAE. So there are no boundaries in how they express themselves because Indians, there's a lot they want to express, and they'll express through whatever they can find. Any means they will find it.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be some work done in understanding what is okay and what's not to be respectful of the country itself. Take up space, but understand when you're taking too much space.
Yes.
And because they take too much space in not the best way sometimes, it can have a negative connotation of how people view Indians just in general, too loud, throwing things everywhere. Like there's like this gap in civic sense that I feel that I also see in India, which annoys me a lot,
Mm.
throwing things everywhere. And
Like,
it's like a second nature because they're not taught as a kid that you shouldn't be throwing this out. It's not good. Treat the world outside how you would treat your home. So yeah, I think people need to work on what is okay and what's not, and automatically I think because I'll be fair, I've seen so many embrace the Indian culture. They love the outfits, they love the music, they love how loudly we live as well in so many ways.
yeah.
There's charm. There's a reason why people are drawn to this kind of culture. Yeah, the people will have an impression and there'll be racism and then automatically people would just not want to associate themselves with Indians in general.
Yeah, I mean, for a culture that's that considerate of physical space, crackers, sound pollution, smoke, that's gonna be very jarring to them, like in a way that we won't really understand because the contrast is
100%.
what makes it seem crazy to them, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Even 2 days ago, the Royal Challengers Bangalore, the cricket team won, right? And
Yeah, I heard.
it was down to the wire and they won. And I've never seen this city like this. It was like I was in The Purge. Have you seen The Purge?
Yeah, I know what you mean though. I
That's
I
what it felt like.
totally understand what you mean.
Yeah. I was like, I know it's going to feel like The Purge. I could see the match being won. And as predicted, everyone was out on the streets. Everyone was revving their engines. Everyone had the flags out.
Of
Things were
course.
exploding everywhere. There were traffic jams because on like the most main central streets, people were
Mhm.
just in their cars, blocking the road, revving the engines, waving the flags, throwing things. I was like, wow.
Throwing things is a must.
Exactly. And I was called old by a very close friend. I was called old because I was like, this is annoying. I just want to be home. I just had my windows up. I was like, it's loud. I can't get around this. But I don't know. That would be really shocking to someone who's never really experienced that. But to someone like me who's seen Diwali, who's seen like the Indian cricket team win before, I know how crazy it can get around here. So I wasn't surprised. I was also happy for people in a roundabout way.
India is very communal in so many
Yeah.
ways. Everyone's up in everyone's business. It's way more communal than anywhere else, like Canada, US for sure. There's no concept of line. They're like, I need to go first, get the blessing, clear out my karma or whatever. There's like a very me perspective.
Even in traffic, when I like allow the buffer and I'm like, everyone can do whatever they want. If you stop at the U-turn and let the people coming around onto the road, they will all come at once.
Right? The one's going, let's go behind him.
Exactly. And then you're like the idiot watching because everyone closes up the gaps. That's why I found like it's a balance. Like I have to assert some level of like I'm driving also. Otherwise, I'm not going to get to where I'm going. But it's interesting. I think there's a dichotomy. I think in the cities, it's very like barefaced, like competition, which is why in cars, you'll see that people will often leave you no room. Every so often, though, surprised by someone polite and they're like, go ahead, please. And then I always give them a little thumbs up. That feels weird.
Then you doing this in the screen felt weird, to be honest. So
Yes.
you projected that.
Every so often, I'm pleasantly surprised. But I will say that, like, whenever I've gone to smaller towns, to villages and stuff, I feel like a very, in the same way that it's barefaced competition in the cities, it's like curiosity and like kindness in the smaller places because people are exposed to so much less. But there's that same level of not having a filter or a veneer or like a facade of any kind. I've been overwhelmed by the kindness and how welcoming people are in these smaller places. That's been refreshing. Yeah, India's a funny old place.
Just with you sharing that, I really feel it has heavily to do with being in cities. I think you just get dysfunctional when you're constantly surrounded by concrete and lack of trees. Because I've noticed the people here in the mountains, oh, their heart is so open, always there to help people. They drop everything to help people out there. They have so little but so grateful, and I think it's the energy of the mountains or something about it that humbles them so much that
Yeah.
forces them to be in the mindset of no, I got your back, you got my back. It's like
Yeah.
this true community. And I
Yeah.
think it's being surrounded by nature, and there's actually research done too that people, when they see less green trees, it kind of makes them go crazy. It's just
Mm.
it's because it's the trees and the green and the things that you surround yourself with. You're more connected to nature. As you're taken away from it, you feel like you're separate from nature. And
Mm.
nature's true identity is what? They work together.
Yeah.
Everyone needs each other. A tree has like this whole mycelium network and everything that's underneath that works together. Yeah, I think being in concrete jungles, they have no choice but to become like that.
Yeah. Even in the concrete jungles, right? The only ones that look good, this is something that I feel like I've noticed, is the ones that are offset by greenery, like well-designed architectural
Mhm.
spaces, even though it's concrete, even the really nice WeWorks and even the workspace that I'm in right now, they
Yeah.
put plants everywhere. Otherwise, without them, it would be weird.
Mm-hmm.
I have two finance-related questions. How are you sustaining yourself here financially?
Mostly I'm living off savings that I have, and then because in India it's so much cheaper compared to Canadian versus India, I'm still very comfortable right
Mhm.
now. But I'm slowly working my way to having my own offerings out there and start putting stuff out there in a way that'll give, some kind of flow of money coming in. But for now, I'm comfortable living mostly off savings. All those years of adding $600 helps a lot. And it somehow it just builds. Like, oh, okay, cool. That somehow multiplied. You don't realize it always adds up, right? Little by little.
Yeah,
Yeah. So for now, I'm pretty comfortable. And but I do feel like I need to um start figuring out my streams of income. Yeah.
that's interesting. I just remember this quote, this Einstein quote about compound interest and how it
Oh,
builds. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it.
nice.
It's interesting because it's just so hard to wrap your head around the idea of something growing at an increasing rate year on year. I think
Totally.
at least my understanding of arithmetic and math is like that I visualize things linearly, if that's even
Mm-hmm.
that it stacks on top of each other
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting and it makes a lot of sense. I know the currency obviously aids in that, but even outside of that, having savings that compound and having that discipline gives you a financial like baseline.
100%.
That makes sense. Do you invest in India? If so, where did you invest, and do you remember what the account opening process was like?
No, I have not yet invested, but I heard the market is amazing here.
Mm-hmm.
You get really good rates and it's much better than what it is in Canada. But once I start earning here, I think I would have to start. It doesn't make sense to bring money from Canada here to invest. So once I start earning, it would make more sense to start thinking wisely on where I can invest and put in that money. Yeah, but for now, no, no, none of that. For me, it logically doesn't make sense to bring the Canadian money to invest here.
I completely see what you're saying, but it might actually make sense. This is actually part of what Belong does.
Hmm,
Not to pitch or
nice
anything,
segue.
but it's interesting because you can invest in dollars, the Canadian dollar, and multiple other currencies
Nice.
directly into the Indian economy, tax-free, easy repatriation, all of that stuff because of this special economic zone. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that like the government probably realized that there's a lot of people like you who are earning elsewhere, and to bridge the gap between your earnings and your life elsewhere and your past elsewhere and the rapidly growing economy without fear of like the currency negatively affecting it. I believe that's what spurred them to have this special economic zone in Gujarat, which is basically what Belong does, is that it offers investments in there in the USD first, not Canadian,
Nice.
But it's just something to consider because I know that it
Mhm.
probably feels like overall like it just doesn't make any sense, and that logically it computes, but new stuff is happening. So definitely something to consider at some point.
Yeah, no, I think it was no, that's good to know that is and I know even certain banks here also give you the opportunity for your especially American USD dollars to invest and get something out of it. Because I've noticed with India, the bank system is quite challenging, especially if you're not a resident here. Especially as an NRI, it's a pain. It really anything, getting anything done. I still haven't gotten my Aadhaar card. I need to
Uh,
get into that, but I have not gotten it yet because of one of these reasons. Need an address, change the address. It's like a lot of info that they need updated, and you have to go through a lot just to get one thing done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the whole reason that the Indian diaspora, like a lot of people have reluctance with putting their money here because they've made it
Mhm.
annoying and just painful to make it happen. And that's exactly what like when everyone keeps talking about, especially at Belong, and there's a few competitors, but it's like a simplified process so that our NRIs can actually invest. Obviously, it's starting in the UAE and going further west, but it's like obviously it's such a real need because even before just this, it was like account opening, multiple visits to the bank, in person, paperwork, fees,
Mhm.
currency, everything. So I really see what you mean. It's a gap that hopefully Belong will bridge well. I believe in it. The fact that so many people are flocking to it, even firms, it shows that there's something there.
Mhm.
But thank you for clarifying as well. On to the next. You mentioned in one of our previous discussions that you feel like you don't necessarily belong anywhere specific. What do you think caused that feeling?
I think it's a crisis all kids go through who are not born in their native land. So I grew up in Abu Dhabi. Even in Abu Dhabi, I didn't feel like I'm born there, but doesn't matter. It didn't feel like I belonged there. I went to India for 2 years in boarding school. Already
Mm,
felt like a fish out of the water, and then came back. I did a completely different board when I came back from grade 9 to 12. Most of the population was a lot of Lebanese, Palestinians, a lot of mixed Arabs in my school. They're also completely disoriented, out of place. And then, yeah, I think wherever I went, I really felt like I never belonged. Even if I came to India, they knew I had an accent. Even
yeah.
now, literally yesterday, I am trying my best, speaking in Hindi in my best ability as possible. Like, where are you from? And I'm like, well, I've been in India for 2 years. The whole spiel. I was in Canada, and they're like, oh, that makes sense, but you need to work on it and have that accent. And it's like, okay, thank you for letting me know. So yeah, I hear all of this all the time. The Hindi, especially I'm a Bengali, it doesn't help because gender is not a thing. So I have this broken Bengali Hindi plus with an accent. It's just, yeah. And then I go to Kolkata, they're like, oh, your accent in Bengali is different. And I question my mom, is it? She's like, no, you're fine. My sister's like, you're fine. Okay, don't
Yeah.
listen to them. And they'll get all protective.
Yeah.
But I've come to a point where I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to make peace with, and it's a very recent revelation. It happened over the past 2 days. I realized I don't really need to feel the need to belong anywhere. Why? It doesn't matter. As long as I'm adapting, as long as I'm learning from the place that I need to, the true belonging comes within and not outside. So as long as I'm feeling anchored in my being and grounded in my being, nothing can shake that. And I
Mm,
don't mind being a citizen of the world. It's great. It has its perks. And
yes.
yeah, so I'm slowly shifting the narration of finding a place to belong
Hmm.
to being okay with not belonging anywhere, and finding home and everything.
That's beautiful. I feel like it takes a while to get to that point of contentment, though, because like you don't have to let people tell you that you need to sound away, even if you're speaking a language that they
100%.
might have had longer than you. If it makes you feel any better, I don't even know Hindi. I don't know Tamil either. I understand a lot of it. I
Yeah.
somehow I just didn't end up learning it specifically, and because of a mixed upbringing in places, it's like there's some sort of an accent, even is, and I was like, I don't know what it is. I find it perplexing myself,
Yeah.
but it's like it's nice to sound a specific way that no one else sounds like. That's the way I see it, and
100%.
came to that conclusion again, fairly recently in the last few years. It's like nice to not be homogenous. It's nice to not be part of like some monolith. Like it's boring. Maybe it's comfortable, but lame to not like.
We hair flips, like whatever. We cool kids don't hang out with groups with specific
Yeah,
labels.
I don't be condescending. When I was a kid, like I wanted to be the same so badly. Like I have a birthmark
Yeah,
on my face. That's like a pretty differentiating factor. My career in crime would be very, very short because I have a
yeah.
birthmark on my face, right? That makes you so different. But it's like, oh, it took till like, and my sister told me this when I was a kid, but obviously I didn't listen. She was like, when you get older, you're gonna love that about yourself, and people are gonna love that about you. And like I was like,
Mm-hmm.
really? I don't know, like a loving sister type thing to say. I was just like, she just loves me. That's all it is. But it's
Yeah,
true. I don't know. Over time, it's just been like, it sounds flippant, but it's just like eventually, I think the unique combination start to kind of like that about yourself. At least I have, which is nice.
totally.
Yeah, but
The perks of adulthood, you understand and fall in love with parts of you that other people shunned when you were a kid, or
yeah,
you thought wasn't worthy being looked at. Yeah.
100%. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely going to be told about the accent for a long time.
Yeah, some people have said, "Oh, you sound like a American child who's trying to speak in Hindi." I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's a compliment or not. And they're like, it's a compliment. I was like, how? It's kind of creepy that you're saying that.
Yeah.
This grown ass person is saying that you sound like a child, and that's a compliment. But I,
Yeah.
but I've learned to be like, it's fine, shrug it off and not take it too hard. I'm like, yeah, fine, it's true. I might have an accent. What do I do about it? I'm able to converse with you and be able to buy what I just bought from you. That's all. The work is done. That's all I need. That's all I need.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You get to decide whether or not something that happens throughout the day either teaches you something or lowers your like energy level, your
So,
your happiness level throughout the day.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a choice. That's the crazy thing. That's the learning is that it is a choice. It's not just what happens to you. And yeah, learning that I'm not entitled to a bad reaction if anything annoys me has like taught me so much. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you're spot on. It
I
is
got
truly a choice we make. Oh, what is it? I can't.
I got this tattoo recently where it's like
Oh, it's a flame and a diamond.
it's a ruby. So that's like their stoic metaphors, but basically I won't go into the spiel right now because
Yeah.
it's gonna go on for a while. But basically the whole flame thing is like you can choose how you react. That's summarizing it a lot.
Yeah, totally. And that's a first a beautiful tattoo to get and a good reminder to have because you ultimately do have the choice in how you react and how you want to shift the day. Either you get offended by what someone told you or you just be like, it doesn't matter, walk away from it. No
Yeah.
harm done."
Yeah. You can laugh at it and just keep going. That's crazy.
Totally.
It's nuts. That's like such a power play.
Yeah, totally. It makes you more in control of how you want your emotions to play out, which is ultimately everything. That's all that matters.
Yeah. It's like that's what colors your perception of the world and that's what your world eventually is.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I used to see my mom like reacting in a very even keeled, sort of patient way with life. And I was like, you're letting them step on you. Like, you should be angry and you should be fiery. Ages later, I look back and I'm like, that was so wise because she got to have her day after that. It didn't get ruined. She just kept
Mhm.
going. And she got to have a good day despite that's the real win, is not like
Mhm.
stepping on someone or making them feel bad because you feel like you're entitled to it, but like continuing to have a good day and then they haven't stolen time from you. That's like a huge win.
Totally.
It's getting deeply philosophical.
Yeah, the attention is the biggest prize that you have, right? Your attention, where your mind is going and who it's going towards.
Yeah, absolutely. What through the changing, shifting, moving, and thinking has remained the same despite all of the changing seasons in your life?
Ooh, hands down, my love for creation.
Mm.
My love for creation, like creativity, is the one thing that helped me get through the darkest days. It was my gateway to spirituality. It's what helped me come back to my power. It's everything, creation. It's the one thing I keep coming back to. It's the one thing my soul keeps coming back to in a way to express. Despite all the changes that has happened, the creation, the power of creating and expressing myself through art has been the number one grounding force for me. Of course, the way I create has always changed, it has evolved in the concepts and how it's being created, but the act of creation, yeah, it's always been there. It's always been the same, and the constant since I was a kid, actually.
That's beautiful. Do you never feel like you need, like your art needs to do something for you financially or anything? Do you feel like it ever has to give something to you, or do you not feel like that?
So yeah, this is an adjustment that I had to make because it was a hobby. It's a thing I did for myself. It's a thing I did for my self-expression. And then all of a sudden when I quit and I had to put myself in a position of creation for possibly having more eyeballs on my page or eventually making that into an art print or a project or animation, it changed my relationship with creation because now I started seeing it as is it worthy for people to even see it, you know? Because now I'm actually making it a thing that's gonna hopefully bring me money. So there was a phase I kept bouncing back, and the pressure got to me where I was like, okay, I need to create way better things, but my pressure of wanting to be better didn't come from my self-growth. It came from validation. And that's what I needed to change. I needed to be like, yeah, no, and it was a journey, right? Journey. And the more I stopped seeking validation inside of me from other people, more I saw them reflected in my art and more stopped caring what people perceived it as. Because let's face it, mine isn't like something you will see and you'll get what it is.
Yeah.
It has symbolism, it has layers to it. So I'm aware that it's not for everybody. And I want to make sure that it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? And I don't want to conform how I create just to make it fit the mass. So
Yeah.
for me to be at the state, I had to go through the process of feeling uninspired, not wanting to create, being too critical of my work and all of that to a point now I'm like I'm creating for enjoyment. I'm creating because there's something that needs to come out through me as a vessel. And if people receive it, amazing. If they don't, it's fine. It's okay. But making sure that every piece that I create next, I want it to be better than the previous just because of myself, not because I want someone else to perceive it. As
Yes.
long as what I'm imagining is being created how it is, how it's showing up to be, I've done my job. That's my metric now. And it works. It helps because this is the energy that you put in is the energy that people feel, right? If you're insecure about your work, then it's not going to resonate. Energy speaks louder than
Yep.
words and anything. So it shows, and people are more reciprocative. They actually receive it in a way that I want them to receive. So it's purely making sure the intention is in there. Yeah, and I also want to bridge healing and things with art as well. So it's going to be an adaptation, but I have let go of the desire of seeking validation from people. Like, oh, I
Wow.
want, because yeah, ultimately I want more eyeballs on my page, 100%. Like I want that to reach wider audience just so that I can match up to the mission. But then that's also ego speaking, right?
Yes.
It's like a constant work on understanding what is coming from the heart and what's coming from the
Yeah.
ego. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a level of understanding that's super beneficial, I'm sure. I think it takes a lot to get there though, because the natural default is probably like validation, money. And for me, like on the point when that didn't happen, I became resentful of the art, and that's like the worst. Took me a while to work out of that, but that's amazing. That is truly amazing to see.
And how did you bounce back when you were in that phase?
I had to stop for a while. I had to
Yeah.
stop completely because I would do gigs. I would get there angry. I would make music. I'd make art. And then beyond the point, I expected nothing to happen. And that's sad.
Mm.
I was like, I don't think any of this is going to pan out. And obviously that comes into the art, that comes into the way you approach it, how much fun you seem to be having. And if you're not having fun with art, if you're not enjoying it, or if it's not at least being actual authentic catharsis of some form, people can tell, like they can feel it. They don't have to break it down some Shakespearean analysis way. They can just feel it. So
Yeah, totally.
what's the exact reason for it existing is the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop for a while. And now when I make something, it's like my relationship with it has been remedied to the point where I've given it time to heal. And now it's just like I have fun with it and it feels innocent again. It feels like when I used to as a kid. which was exciting for a very long time. Yeah, but I had to I had to go on hiatus for a while. Like it was a dysfunctional family member. I was like, I can't see you for a while. I think
Mm.
I need to process, and then we'll reconnect. And now the relationship is good. So
I
yeah.
have a lot of those moments. I used to have a lot where I would take breaks and I'd be like, yeah, I need to recalibrate it, refocus, because I'm not loving any art I'm creating because again, it's coming from, especially if I want to have that base on Instagram, have to be consistent
Oh
and
yeah.
consistently creating, consistently posting, consistently coming up with ideas. It's like, oh, sometimes it's just, I don't want to feel like a machine in creation. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel you. And sometimes that gap is also good. It gives some time for old things to die and new way of approaching it to birth.
Yes, absolutely. No, 100%. Because it takes its own shape. Like if you want to give it its place, and it's like I was pursuing it's if I could put it in a metaphor, it was like I was chasing this girl, right? Like I was like, you will give me what I want. And that's not how courtship actually works, you know? That's how like if music was personified. I was like, why are you not paying me any attention? I want fame. Like, why are you not giving me these things? That's not how it works. It's a gift, right? But you keep showing up and like you enjoy that. And then as a byproduct of enjoying that relationship, the results come, you know? But I
Yeah.
had time to realize that. Yeah, it needs to take its own shape. Taking that time really did help. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that concludes the big questions. All I have left are the rapid fire questions. And I would suggest that we keep the answers down to like less than a minute. But if they go longer, that's completely fine.
Okay, sure.
Awesome. So the first rapid fire question is, what is the strangest food you've eaten across all your travels?
I think I would say snails. That was like the most absurd thing when I was younger in a cruise ship. They came out with a thing of
Yeah.
snails.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was good actually.
Really?
They made it in a very French style with the garlic and the
That's quite good.
butter. Yeah, it was pretty good. Now I don't eat meat anymore, but so yeah, but that's the strangest thing I remember. I've seen
Uh-huh.
scorpions and things, but never had them.
That takes bravery. Escargot is one thing, but scorpion is like,
Yeah.
if you could narrow the shift in your life from corporate to non-corporate down to a single moment, what would it be?
Sorry, just to elaborate more on the question, you mean a moment where the transition made sense or the moment where
The moment that caused you to make that decision.
oh, okay, okay. Sorry, yeah. Oh, thing that realized that the minute I sat in that call with the VP trying to understand if I even fit, and it was like sustainability. And the more I sat in it within the first 2 minutes, I was like, I really don't want to be here.
Mm.
How do I end this call? How do I end this call? That was a moment I was like, yeah, there's no point. I need to get out.
There. Pick the best place out of the UAE, India, and Canada for the following. Number one, making new friends.
Canada. Even India, even that's not bad. I would say India now. It's a different kind of people, India.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, they're more open.
Yeah, for sure. It's that communal sense, like we were talking about.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
literally anybody will talk to anybody kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's true. Number two, feeling welcomed.
I would say Canada more.
Number three, personal growth.
India. This is
Interesting.
without doubt. Yeah.
The next question. What changed most about India between when you left after middle school and returned?
Firstly, I feel the cities grew a lot because when I was in Gurgaon, I had a whole impression that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go into this barren place with a lot of men just there. But no, this time when I came back, I saw it was beautiful to see so many women embrace their magical self and just step out, whatever outfit, just going out and just women taking up space. I loved seeing that. And that was an impression I really had to alter and see and be like, wow, okay, I'm very proud of India in so many ways. And the Indian women, because gosh, there's some really, really, really powerful women out there that are really making a mark, more than men actually in the same age group. Yeah. So it was very beautiful to see that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I'm glad. That's a positive change for sure. What
Yeah.
was the period between what was the time period between when you left and came back exactly? How many years was that?
Ooh, 10 years, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. I hadn't been to India.
Yeah, it's changed so much. 7 years is ages in India. It changes
It's
so
a
quick.
lot.
What's the most foreign quality you possess as a returnee to India?
Niceness. Gosh, I need to calm down with the niceness. Yeah, it's the amount, it's the people pleasing tendencies as well that comes with it.
I see what you mean. People pleasing is definitely something to let go of. Niceness, I would argue not so much. It's something really,
Yeah,
in my
that's
opinion.
true. Because you don't want to hurt people, you want to offend people.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Last rapid fire question. Tell me about one moment in which your intuition told you something logic never could.
Quitting my job, I didn't have a backup plan, nothing, literally nothing lined up, and I just knew I had to follow this calling.
Wow.
I
That,
just knew it, and it was a no-brainer. It's like one of the decisions that I took that had no backup plan,
mm,
nothing I could see, like it was complete darkness ahead. I
mm,
had nothing to hold on to, but I just knew in my heart that I have to make this decision now, otherwise it'd be too late.
that's amazing. That's pure intuition.
There was no logic behind it, no logic, no backup, no nothing. But 100%, it was like perks because I had no significant ties, no families, no nothing, just a condo, great, and my friends, of course, but they have their own life now too. So
Yeah.
it's just like nothing that was holding me down. And I
Mm,
could, and I think if I was in the mindset of having a family or whatever, let's say my sister, she has her husband and her dog and her home, it's so much harder for me to make the decision, even if she wants to do it.
yeah.
That just, yeah, I'm very grateful to have been in that position to do that.
That's beautiful. It did seem like things lined up, maybe not mathematically, but in the right way so that you could make
Yeah,
that.
in every way possible. Every way, like, it just perfectly aligned. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost magical.
Mm.
Yeah.
And this is the final question, just for me,
Yes.
to wrap things up, because I'm curious. Are there any regrets that come from that decision, or in retrospect, do you feel complete contentment
Of coming to India?
of changing your life?
Oh, no, no regrets. Oh, no, no regrets at all. I love it. I
Mm.
love the subtle abundance that I'm floating in, not the really materialistic wealth abundance, but just the sheer things that are unfolding in front of me. Oh my gosh, no regret. I think the only thing that I still feel like, because I am in this space of constantly evolving, I know I feel like I'll be single for life at this point. So I have kind of owned that and owned that journey. I'm like, I think this is what's gonna be, and I think that's the only thing that I feel, and part of it is also my parents. But it's like they know that they can't force your thumbs up comes up.
Yeah,
The
of course.
car comes up.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, don't worry. I'm like, listen, don't worry. I'm fine. I got me and my soul, and I got my traveling. Sometimes I think, oh, did I do this journey too late? Maybe. Like, cause when I made the call, I was 30, and I was like, did I do it too late? Because the amount of change, no way would anybody I would have been with worked out,
Mm.
right? So it's like, but I'm like, I trust in the divine
Yeah.
alignment of things and whatever is meant to be, and I've also accepted if I have to be single for life, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing. Like, I think if you're that sorted out internally, then, life has a surprising way of working out. So you never know. But at the same time, if you enjoy your company and you've faced your shadow, as you say, then it's not a necessity that you demand of life that you need someone else, you know?
totally, totally. And ultimately, what we seek from someone else is something we seek from us.
Yeah.
That's something I have really been grounded on, and I'm aware that that's the truth. So
Yes.
while I'm also the new state that I am, I'm very curious how I'd show up in a relationship. So I'm just curious to explore that aspect of me, because I'm a whole other person now. And I have given myself the whole year and a half not dating, not seeking, not doing any of that stuff. And I will continue to do so. But I'm just, the curiosity is there. Like, will my shadows come up now? Will things that triggered me before, will it still trigger? Am I able to bounce back faster? Because it's true, it's easy to be single and not worry about it, and your shadow self sometimes gets missed.
Yeah.
So yeah, those things there. But whatever. It's just
Yeah.
whatever works out will happen. And
Absolutely. That's the best way of looking at it, is just letting things pan out, because then you're actually allowing life to give you what's meant to happen.
yeah, totally. And the ultimate goal is also be the best version you can be so you can match the like, right?
Absolutely. Well, that was episode 8 of Everywhere We Belong, and I feel like it was extremely insightful. Thank you, Parmita. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks, Micah.
Of course. I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like it was very, very thought-provoking. So thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise. I also learned a lot. Little nuggets of confirmation and also like, oh, what I can do next. More of.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, unexpected areas of common ground too. Very cool.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Micah. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.